is a very noisy place to be doing a video. Okay, hopefully this plane will go by. If it's not a plane, it's a car.
Flying low under the radar, like a nighthawk stealth plane, you are hiding out in the shadows, keeping from the light of day. Nobody should ever have to live that way. Hey now, it's okay now. You don't have to hide from the world no more.
All right, today we're going to talk about safety on the road and why I still feel safe out here even though I've gone through some interesting experiences. We'll also deep dive into those experiences and I'll talk about the situation, what happened, how I handled it, and go from there. Safety on the road has been a pretty big topic as far as questions I've received thus far, and it did warrant its own video. Now this one's probably going to be a little bit of a lengthy video because I'm going to be giving some real life experiences and share some stories with you of situations that I've encountered since I've been on the road. So I've touched on safety in a previous video, but this one's going to be dedicated to it. Long story short, if you're just wanting the simple version, I don't feel unsafe on the road. Now there have been times where my gut feeling comes into play and I end up having to leave, but for the most part, I don't feel unsafe out here. A big factor into why I don't feel unsafe is because I do have 3 dogs. I have 2 German Shepherds, which are huge deterrents, and I have a Brittany Spaniel who is very protective of his mama. So I have an alarm system already built in with the 3 dogs. They're gonna let me know anytime someone comes nearby or even thinks about coming nearby, or even if there's nobody coming nearby, they're still gonna let me know that Casper's out there by my car. But aside from the dogs, I am confident in my abilities as a person on how to defend myself if I have to. I've taken several self-defense classes and I continue to take classes to build those skills and to refresh on those skills occasionally. So I'm also physically confident in my own abilities, but I also want to be mindful that I am only X amount of weight, and if someone larger than me, physics will play into that. So though it's not foolproof, it does build my confidence that I have those skills. So let's talk about some of the encounters that I've had. My first uneasy encounter, I was in Washington and I was at a campground and it was very late. It was approaching sunset and it was really smoky because of the fire. There was not very good visibility. The air quality was really bad, but I was desperate for a spot. I'd been looking for one for most of the day and I finally landed what I thought was a gem of a spot. Unfortunately, there was a person camping nearby that changed the whole situation, and my comfort level went from 0 to 60 real quick, 60 being not so good. This gentleman started to approach my camp as I was eating dinner and started to harass me in a way. Now, thankfully, I had Agron with me at the time, and I had him on a 30-foot lead. Now, I am a firm believer that Agron is the sole reason that this situation didn't get escalated beyond its extent, and that is because Agron was on a 30-foot lead and was able to keep distance between this person and I. This person did not listen to me when I set boundaries and said he needed to stay back and go back to his campground, that I was not comfortable. But he did not listen. It took me a long time to finally get him to go, and it wasn't until Agron snapped at him when he listened. Agron started to come towards me, and it gave this gentleman an opportunity to come closer. However, I was very thankful that when Agron realized that this gentleman had come within the length of his rope, he charged him and snapped at him. Now, he didn't actually make contact, but it got the gentleman to recoil back and get back to a safer distance from me and him. Now, he did make some light comments about the situation, and I did say, if you come any closer, Agron will attack you. So after that gentleman finally left me alone, I did end up packing up camp and getting the heck out of Dodge. It was pitch black and I had no cell phone service, so it was really nerve-wracking for me to just get up and go when I had no idea where to go, and I had spent all day looking for a camp. I did end up finding something, and I obviously was okay the next day, but it was a very stressful situation. The second scenario, I did have all 3 dogs with me, and I had a gentleman approach my camp and actually know my name. The simple fact that he knew my name kind of escalated the situation for me a little bit more, and I was more nervous because I didn't know who this gentleman was. I did end up finding out that he was somebody that I had met the night before at a hot spring, and I'm not sure how he found me, but my best guess is that he probably followed me back without me knowing. Now, I'm a very observant person, so it's very hard for someone to follow me and me not know because I pay that close of attention. So I'm not really sure how that situation transpired, but the simple fact of the matter is that this gentleman knew my name and where I was the next day. I was all by myself, and the only reason why he didn't approach my camp was because of my dogs. The second situation, unfortunately, I had all of my belongings out of the vehicle because I was remodeling and cleaning and I was just reorganizing everything. So it took me a long time to pack that up, and by the time the gentleman left and came back, I was still packing. Thankfully, at that point, I had put my dogs from their 6-foot leads to their 25-foot leads, and the gentleman actually did look into my camp and see that and kind of had a grimace on his face, but he kept walking. So he did end up leaving that area. I still packed up all of my things and got out of there. In fact, I went to stay at a cabin where I am actually friends with the hosts, and I was able to kind of share with them what had happened, and I felt safe that night, not only being in a place that had like an actual lock on the door besides just my car door, but also having friends nearby that knew what had happened and were keeping a closer eye on me. So that really helped in that situation. These situations, by my account just now, might not sound that bad, but let's just take into context that these situations were way worse than I'm portraying them on this channel. Each time my dog played a huge role in my safety, and I will forever be grateful for their companionship. If it wasn't for them, both instances, I probably would have had a different outcome. And unfortunately, in that sense, the only outcome I could think of is that it would have ended up becoming a physical altercation. Now, that's where I come back to what I said earlier, that I've taken self-defense classes and I am pretty confident in my skills and abilities. However, I definitely don't want the altercation to escalate to that level. Now, there have been situations when I was just chilling at a lake, relaxing, watching some shows on my phone, and these gentlemen walked into my camp and got very close to my car. That not only irritated me because I felt like they were violating my personal space and they didn't respect boundaries, they clearly knew that I was in there. My hatch was open, my windows were down, the dogs were barking. It was very known that I was there. So for them to walk up to my camp, I was a little irritated by that. While the gentleman didn't do anything to harm my situation, I didn't feel comfortable. So I did end up packing up and finding a more remote location to camp at that was more private. If you don't feel comfortable in a situation, there is zero shame in getting up and going. I also have various self-defense tools that I have scattered across my 4Runner and on my persons at all time. I'm very skilled in those tools and resources. I won't go into what they are for the sake of this video being on YouTube, but I have other means of self-defense. I also have bear spray and mace and an axe or two and a few knives. Now, these are all last resort situations for me. I definitely want to be able to de-escalate a situation on my own before it escalates to that. But in the event that something is going to happen and it does escalate, I am prepared and I do know how to use these tools. So I think it just boils down to personal preference when it comes to safety on the road and how you handle that. So now let's talk about some tips and tricks on how to stay safe and how to lower your risk of being in an unsafe situation. So the first tip would be to be observant or aware. Know what's going on around you, what escape routes are nearby. The next tip would be to follow your gut. Your gut instinct is there for a reason, and usually it's a good indicator that something's not right. If you feel uneasy or unsure about a situation, don't even get out of your car before you are comfortable. I think that's probably one of the biggest things is keep your door locked, know your surroundings, and don't get out of your car until you're comfortable in the situation. Another tip is to let somebody know where you're going to be or where you are. I have a Garmin InReach Mini that allows me to ping my family members anywhere in the world. So if I'm at a campsite that doesn't have cell phone service, I can send them a message and let them know where I'm at, how I'm doing, and it's a peace of mind for me. I also allow close family members to follow my GPS location on my phone. So if I'm in service, my family can pinpoint exactly where I'm at through an app called 360. I always keep my doors locked at night. I never keep them unlocked, and if I'm gonna have the windows down, I keep them cracked. But I do wanna say that I have not felt unsafe on the road very often. There's only been a handful of times where I've been uneasy about a situation, and I've always just gotten out of it. There were those two situations where unfortunately I wasn't able to just get up and go. But other than that, for the most part, life on the road is safe. For me, I feel safer out towards the backcountry or in more remote places. But there are some full-timers that stay in cities, and they may have different tips and tricks on security and safety on the road. But for me, I'm not in those positions. First of all, I don't feel safe being in a city, sleeping in someone's neighborhood. I just don't really like that feeling. Now, I have had to do it, and I can make it work, but I always get this little gut feeling like, ooh, I shouldn't be here. So those are just a few tips and tricks that I have and I implement with my life on the road in a 4Runner. Now, 4Runner life versus truck camper life's a little bit different because of the type of vehicle or the type of rig. In a truck camper, I had a little bit more flexibility because I had more of a space to live in. In a 4Runner, you're literally right there. If you're looking in my window, my face is there, my dog's face is there. It's not that private. So I do try to avoid those situations by putting up reflectance or window coverings that are blackout in my 4Runner. I usually do that at camp, and that tends to give me a little bit more privacy and a peace of mind that someone's not just snooping in my car. But I will say, in the end, it's always worth it to get up and go if you're not feeling comfortable, because the alternative could be really bad. Anyways, you guys, I hope you found my safety tips and tricks helpful or useful. If you did, give it a like, share it with your friends and family or somebody that you think would benefit from this content. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video now. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss out on future content. I do have a couple more videos in this series, so I'm excited to share those with you all. So until next time, stay safe and have a very blessed day. Bye.
Flying